Hello guys, today I want to show you how the query function works here. So let's look at the right side. You can see the orange words. So that's from the terminal. So if I call this function, it should output a 3. So that's the really basic one. So just like definition, function definition, df f1 function column returning the 3. This one is not the curve function, but I have to show you the simplest one here. So if you call the function f1, you should get the return value that's 3. Okay. Now the second one. Let's look at the second one. The second example, that's the query function. This type. You can see there are 2 parentheses along with the f2 function. So f2, because there are 2 functions, because there are 2 parentheses. That means you have to call the function twice. What do you mean by calling the function twice? I'm not talking about the recursive function here. It's just a query function. So let me show you another function here. Let me define another function, like the results function, and return the 3. So return result function address. Let me give some explanation here. So first of all, Python will look at the function name. So that's the function name. This is the function name, and then calling the f2 the first time. So it creates the inner function here and returning the result. So what is the result? Result is the inner function definition. So that means here the f2 parenthesis, it should output the result. Okay, it's returning the result. The result is the function definition. It's the function name, and then calling the second function with 1 more parenthesis. So that's the result parenthesis. That means you are calling the result function. By calling the result function, you are calling the f2 function. You are calling the function that's inside the f2 function. So there's a result function and returning the 3. So if you try this code in the terminal, you should get the 3. So that's the query function. First of all, you have to return the function name at the end in the outer function returning value. So, and then calling the high order the query function here. Yeah, but first of all, you have to define the function definition first. You must define it first. Otherwise, you get the error because the Python cannot recognize what's the result mean. Yeah. So you have to define the function and then call that function. So that's the query function works. Okay, let's see the F3. So what's the F3? So it's the another type of the query function. Another type, just another example. But right here we have the variable, we have the argument. Here, that's the 3. df F3. No arguments in the first time because there's no argument, nothing here. And then we can return the another function name in order to call the another function with the second parenthesis. So like if I can create the name, that's the result. So the df result function, and I can create an argument that's the x. So I can return the x. So first of all, we are calling the F3 function. So calling the F3 function, and then returning the results another function. But before returning the result function, we have to define its definition, the function definition, so we can call, so we can return that function name. And then F3, calling the F3, it returns the results. That's the another function name. So technically is returning the function address. Yeah. So, but it's fine. Here's the function name, and then call the result function with the 3. The value is 3 right here. So x is 3. So x is because of the query function. The following parentheses here, those will be called inside the outer function. Yeah. So if you define this result outside the F3, it doesn't work. I mean, you can't call the result function by using the query function, because the query function, that means you define the function inside the function. Define the function inside the function, and then you can use the query function to call them. Yeah. So it's returning the x. Well, it's the x is the 3, so it returns the 3. So it's the 3. Okay. Some of you may wonder why we have to use the query function. I can explain that a little bit, but first of all, let's look at the last examples. It's still returning the 3. Let's look at the last example. This one, the F4 function. So you can see there are 4 parentheses, right? So that means you have to create 4 function. Yeah, 4 function you have to create. So definition F4. The first parenthesis, there's no argument. So there's the empty parenthesis, and then second function definition. Let me call the G function. Yeah, just name it to the G. And the second parenthesis, there's no, yeah, there isn't any value, no value here. So empty parenthesis. And the third function name, h function. And there's the free, right? You can see the free is the example. So we have to define the variable, the arguments, that's the x. Okay, and the last function definition, results. And last one, there's no any arguments. You can see. And then return the what's. Because here in the third parenthesis, you can see there's a value, that's the free. What's the, so the x is the free, so we have to return the x. Yeah. So you might understand, you might know that right now, you might know that the x can be shared with its inner function. Yes, you can. Right. So then return, you have to call return the result function, return the h function, return the g function, right? So let me change the example here. If here's the 2, if this one is the 2, and the answer and the returning function, it should be it should be -1. So how do you do that? So it's easy here. Yes, you can see in the second parameters, that means in the second function here, you have this argument here, so you have to define the argument. So let me define like the y, g of y. So it's x plus y. Sorry, x, y minus the x. Yeah. So you can define many arguments in all of the functions. Or, yeah, it's up to you. It depends on the situation here. Okay, so that's the curly function works. And right now, let me explain some briefly explanation why we have to use the curly function. I'm not sure if you know this or okay, fine. If you know Java, you might know that you can define the class inside the class, right? So that means you are protecting the inner class. So others, so I mean other like the, I mean how to say okay, other variables or other objects outside the class cannot directly access the inner class, right? So it is they have the similar properties in that based on in the Python curly function. If you define the function that's inside the another function, so that means you are protecting that function. Why? How do you protect the function here? How do you protect the function? First of all, you have to call the outside. You have to call the outer function first. Always. If you don't call the outer function, you cannot call the inner function. You cannot call like the g function, h function, result function. You cannot access all the inner functions directly without calling the outer function. So that means the f4 function is like a like a parent protecting his children, right? So you have to call the f4 first. You cannot just directly call the inner functions directly. Yeah, directly. So that's the curly function works. But if you don't care about protection, if you don't care about that, you can move all the inner function outside the F4. So that means you are creating 4 functions in the same structure. I mean, just for example, just like you can choose to call the define the function of the F4, blah blah blah, G function, blah blah blah, H function, blah blah blah. So that means they are all independent. So you can directly call either one freely, right? They are all independent. But if you want to protect those functions, you can use the query function to protect them. So you have to call the outer function first, and then you can access the inner function. So that's one of the most important property of using the query function. Yeah. Actually, there are other usage, but right now I just introduced one of the important usage here. So if you have any ideas or questions or problems, you can comment. Thank you. See you.